All right, welcome back to Joe Sin's Rarest Photos. I guess I had to change the name to match my Facebook to make it easier for y'all to figure out where I'm at. I don't think it's going to change. I think this channel is going to solely focus on Elvis. I know I've got the Elvis and the Legends channel, but I just haven't had time to do any other videos besides Elvis, and I really want to put all the Elvis ones on this channel. And then when I get an opportunity to do some more and talk about Frank Sinatra or all the other legends in the world, you got, you know, the Duck Commander family. You've got Billy Graham, for those of you that like Billy Graham. You got Anne Margaret. But we are reading Child Bride right here, okay? And it's controversial. And I'll tell you why it's controversial. Because there's a lot of Priscilla fans that have never heard this before. They've never heard that she had other potential lovers before Elvis, you know, during Elvis, after Elvis. Of course, we all know that. So we're reading it. Thank you to your members. Thank you to your subscribers, all brand new subscribers, the subscribers that are older. Thank you to my Facebook crowd, because it's going to go on there as well. Brand new Facebook members there. And thank you to those that have left me super thanks and stars, I guess, on Facebook. All right. So without further ado, let's read the book. So where we left off in this book, Priscilla had just seen Mike Stone at a martial art championship. Let's see the tie here, I guess. I hadn't taken that off yet. I just got back from my meeting. At a martial art championship. And she decided then and there that she was going to have him, basically. Okay? So that's where we're at. Take a drink, and then we'll get to reading. Make sure there's no brand name on there. I'll get in trouble or not like that. Okay. Priscilla sublimated herself in dance, intensifying her schedule in LA. That spring to include 3 demanding classes in addition to her continuing scene work, using a pseudonym, which is C.P. Persimmons, to disguise her identity. More secrets. But that being said, to go back to the Elvis and Lucy book and her claims that he used disguises in order to see her at hotels and places like that. We've gotten already documentation here that Elvis had used disguises. And then you have this disguised pseudonym that probably came from Elvis because he didn't want somebody, you know, harassing Priscilla. Steve Peck. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is the supposed affair. I've got to say that, okay? The same guy that was supposedly with Priscilla up there in the stands at the 1968 comeback special. The same guy that she said that she cheated first on Elvis. So here we go. Steve Peck, an exacting tough guy. Former New York stage dancer who owned the studio on Robertson and taught all the classes, dance and acting, coaxed Priscilla onto the stage. She wasn't good as an actress, he observed, but she worked very hard. She really got into it. Priscilla was excellent at dance, into which she threw herself body and soul, filling the voids in her life. Steve pegged Priscilla. Maybe not the best place to stop there. Let me finish this line. Steve pegged Priscilla as a woman with needs, like many of the wives and ex-wives in his Beverly Hills dance class. His advice to all of them was the same. Stop talking about it and sweat. Forget about it. Get out of here. Forget about it. Forget about it. He said later of Priscilla, something starts over a need. With Priscilla, I think it was a building of desire. The life wasn't what she wanted. Elvis had evidently thought he had her, but she needed something. Dance began to open her up, to long hidden inside the artificial persona she had created for Elvis. In Peck's creative environment, she unfolded like a flower. Is this like a romance novel or something? I'm about to blush here. I think this was the start of her emoting herself, he assessed. She would enjoy it, and she would laugh and have fun, and nobody bothered her. A lot of people didn't even know who she was. Rumors began circulating through Elvis's entourage that Priscilla was having an affair with Steve Peck. I couldn't believe it, said Joe Esposito. I just kept thinking about this little girl I knew that would never do this. The prim, good girl side of Priscilla's split personality had deceived even Joe Esposito. Who had known her since she was the age of 14. For Priscilla admitted in her memoir, which came out in 1985, that she had a physical liaison with someone from her dance class identified pseudonymously, there we go, as Mark. She later denied it was her instructor, Steve Peck, saying only that her lover was a dancer. Okay, well, this is interesting, okay, because it's been out there everywhere, right? Let's see where this goes with this. Whether this Steve Peck has been accused of something that he didn't do, or whether she was just trying to keep him anonymous. Steve Peck also disavowed the affair, though he acknowledged Priscilla was needy. She had no romance with me. I was very, very close to her, a close creative. She used to come there, and I knew there was a problem because it was obvious. If you're really in love, you don't go dedicate yourself to something, or if you do, you take him with you. And we never saw Elvis. She introduced me to him twice. Okay, interesting. He knows a little bit about her, a little bit too much about that personal part to not have anything with her. I was told it was Steve, countered Joe Esposito. So Joe Esposito said it was Steve. He was told it was Steve. The instructor was without question Priscilla's type. Tall, dark, and Sicilian. Priscilla herself compared Steve admiringly to Anthony Quinn, and was nervous years later about what he might have revealed about the personal side of their relationship. Patty Perry was certain of the affair with Steve. I saw Priscilla with Steve Peck in the market. He was a very attractive guy. Now, I would never tell Elvis. Someone did, apparently, a member of the entourage. We knew about it, said Charlie Hodge, who also believed Priscilla's lover was Steve Peck. In fact, we were talking about it in a group with Elvis, and one of the guys said we could get a detective to follow her. Now, Elvis, according to Charlie and the rest of the mafia, forbade them to use a private investigator to tail Priscilla, and would not allow anyone to say a disparaging or unkind word about her in his presence. Elvis said, anybody does that, you're fired. Then he said, there's a whole big world out there, and that little girl doesn't know anything about it. And if she gets hurt a little bit, it'll make a better wife out of her. Now, do I believe Elvis said that? I do. Let me tell you why I do. And, it's something that's, let me have a drink here, and I'll tell you why, because, yeah. So, we know what we know from this book, that Priscilla was not as innocent as Elvis thought. That she had lived a life, in a sense, that she had experiences, that she had her heart broke, that she had romances, dalliances, that she drank and smoked when she was 12, 13, 14, disappearing for 3, 4, 5 hours in the back seat with boys in the cars. According to the book, right? According to the research. And this is well researched. The sources are pages and pages long. This isn't like some of the other books that have no sources, like Priscilla's book, 0 sources. Only her. Believe her or not. Um, I believe that Elvis, for two reasons, didn't want Priscilla followed. I think if he said that, he wanted to be fair as he could be. He'd had a lot of experience with relationships, a lot of dalliances before Priscilla, during Priscilla's, you know, maybe not while they're married until she had the affair. But I think that he didn't want to feel hypocritical. And he thought for sure that what she found out there wasn't going to be what she had with him. Now, he was wrong, because she didn't want to be with him, not the real Elvis. She wanted to be with the rock and roller. And he found out that she didn't love him, that Priscilla did not love Elvis. She loved the money, the fame, the position it gave her, the child that was an ATM machine for her back before, long before ATM machines existed. So I think that speaks a little highly of Elvis right there. You know, that he said, anybody that does that, you're fired. There's a whole big world out there that little girl doesn't know anything about. And if she gets hurt a little bit, it'll make a better wife out of her. Charlie, like Joe Esposito, didn't think Priscilla would do anything like that. So successfully had she suppressed her true nature around Elvis and his friends. The affair was reminiscent of the Priscilla of old back in Germany, where she maintained a double life with a series of boyfriends while Elvis was thousands of miles away in the United States, believing her to be faithful. She had seemingly remained true to Elvis throughout her 4 years sequestered at Graceland, except for lusting in her heart after Mylon the Fever. Perhaps because she was a virtual prisoner, and also because she and Elvis were not yet married. Priscilla was still clinging to the fallacy that she had never been with another man, that she was more likely apprehensive about being caught in an affair, therefore jeopardizing her chances of ever marrying Elvis. Now that she had accomplished her goal, she could take that risk and fulfill her desires, which had never been wholly satisfied by Elvis, just as she had been doing in Wiesbaden. That makes total sense, right? She hadn't gotten the golden goose yet, so she wasn't going to risk it. And by her own admission and everybody else, it's not like they completely didn't do anything, okay? If we're to believe that they did wait till the wedding night, if we're to believe that, they did everything short of that, of the completion of it. And they probably did it often when they were around each other. So it wasn't like she was without anything, right? So why would she get caught, be sent back to her parents before she had a chance to succeed and have a cash cow? You know? To have a forever income. And she's out there in California now. In California, you get a lot more in California as an ex than you do in Tennessee. So that's why she wanted to stay in California, why she wanted to get a house out there. She knew it was going to give her power and control and money and that financial part of it. Just a dark little story, isn't it? Let's continue. Priscilla wasted little time in doing so. During the first 9 months of her marriage to Elvis, she was pregnant. Within weeks after having Lisa, she had taken a lover. That's something Elvis fans pretty much know about. Priscilla fans want to deny. They're still denying it, even while I'm reading it. Calling me a lot of names on Facebook. She attributed the affair with the pseudonymous Mark years later to the intensity of the dance, saying that the drive and her emotional state peaked at the time. It helped me certainly get through. I hate putting myself in that lower level of existence, but it helped me get through, and it helped me get my attention away from me. You know, it was exciting. It was something different. Not that I'm promoting it, nor am I using that as an excuse, said Priscilla. I don't think it's right, but to survive, I guess I needed to be able to do what I needed to do as a woman, and I needed to get away from Elvis. I needed to get away from his life and his lifestyle. The mutual hypocrisy of Elvis and Priscilla's marriage became clear at the taping of his NBC special in June. Now, Elvis, recalled his director, did not want Priscilla around during rehearsals, ostensibly because there are too many other guys around, but actually because he was having an affair with Susan Henning, okay? A pretty blonde dancer in the special who openly stayed with Elvis on the set throughout pre-production. When Priscilla arrived for the taping, the first time she had seen Elvis perform live ever, she brought Steve Peck. You got my son and his friends outside. I'm gonna go say, hey, shush, go play in the grass. So we got apologies. Maybe y'all went and got some coffee or something, right? Or tea or something. Normally I don't interrupt my videos and step away, but we've got neighbors that are sweet kids, very sweet kids. There's a lot of them, okay, and they play with my son Weston outside, and they were out there on the porch, the front steps and stuff playing. So anyhow, let's roll on and keep reading, because I'm gonna try to get to 30 minutes for y'all, okay? Y'all have been asking me to read a little bit more, and so I'm trying to fulfill what you're asking. All right, so he was having an affair with Susan Henning, a pretty blonde dancer in the special who openly stayed with Elvis on the set through pre-production. Now, when Priscilla arrived for the taping, the first time she'd seen Elvis perform live, she brought Steve Peck, along with several of the other dancers from her class, one of whom remembered Steve. I just cracked. Oh my goodness. Steve, I feel like I'm just turning 13. Anyways, who remembered Steve was a male hairdresser with an enormous crush on Priscilla, or C.P. Persimmons, her fake identity. It wasn't until Elvis introduced Priscilla to the audience during filming of the special that her classmate discovered he'd been pining for Elvis Presley's wife. Now, Steve expected Priscilla's secret admirer to be crushed to find out she was married. Instead, Steve chuckled. The first thing he said was, "I want to cut his hair." It was like a real Hollywood situation. I think that Steve might have made that up to try to throw suspicion off of him, that story. I doubt it. That being said, I wasn't there, right? But she did enough research and she talked to other people. That's why Suzanne believes that Steve was the one that had the affair with Priscilla, just like Joe Esposito, just like Charlie Hodge, just like all the others thought. All right. And you know they spied on her anyway, even though Elvis said not to. I know they did. All right. Now, Elvis's affair with Susan Henning lasted most of the rest of the year, as Priscilla carried on with her dancer lover. They were leading separate lives, although their marriage was still in the post-honeymoon stage and their daughter was less than 6 months old. Priscilla had effectively made their new house on Hillcrest in Truesdale Estates, an exclusive section of Beverly Hills, a home for herself and Lisa, eschewing Memphis for LA, which she had always preferred. See, Memphis, those of you that are over there in Memphis and Priscilla's going over there and getting appearance fees or donating time when she's in town, getting appearance fees somewhere else, she never liked Memphis. She's an LA girl. You know? Though the world envisioned theirs as a storybook marriage, in truth, Priscilla and Elvis were married in name only. Being married gave Priscilla the confidence to be herself again, no longer needing to project a fake facade to induce Elvis to wed her. She later told Redbook magazine, "Inside, I was becoming my own person. I wanted to be more me." She said she'd looked at some of her earlier photographs with the beehive and black eyeliner and concluded that she didn't look real in them. In a way, she wasn't. She was a fake. A fake, 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 fake. She was a fake to get Elvis. And she played the long game. If anything, she's smart that way. She's street smart. She belongs in the streets, right? That's what they say. She is street smart. Not book smart, not math smart, not business smart, none of that. Street smart, like she was raised on the streets. That sort of it. That's very cunning. And once again, you got to give credit to her. Those that want to give credit, at least. That she did play the long game. That she fooled Elvis. That she tricked everybody until she got what she wanted, and then she cut ties. And coldly cut ties. We know when that happened. She said she was leaving Elvis for Mike Stone right before he's going on stage. Cold fish. Or whatever. I guess that's the terminology. Let's not say fish, but cold. Cold as ice. Let's say that. Here's cold as ice, willing to sacrifice our love. Priscilla. Don't. It's like piano lick. All right. So, in a way she wasn't. Elvis had created a persona as artificial as a double set of false eyelashes she had faithfully put on every morning, whether she was spending the day in the barn or going to a Tom Jones concert. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. She must have went to some Tom Jones concerts on her own, huh? There was also the strain between Priscilla and the Memphis Mafia, who resented her newfound power as Elvis's wife. She fired several members of the household staff in L.A., and Elvis sent for Mary Jenkins, the Graceland cook, to smooth things over. Willie Jane laid the blame for Elvis and Priscilla's eventual divorce on his male entourage. They were against his marriage. I don't care what beautiful things they say now. They had no understanding for her at all. She had more for them than they did for her. So Willie Jane seems like a Priscilla defender. Now, y'all tell me about Willie Jane. I don't know as much about Willie Jane as I do, Mary Jenkins. All right. They made Elvis do things. And they worked on her to a certain extent. They were always introducing girls to him and trying to get him interested in girls. And naturally, that would hurt her. Priscilla's barely buried resentment came out years later after Elvis died, and she assumed control of the estate when she would refer to certain members of the entourage as has-beens and leeches. Or even worse. In truth, though, the guys hung around largely because Elvis wanted them around, for he romanticized the idea of having an entourage, and depended upon them for emotional support, possibly because he had been an only child, perhaps because he walked in his sleep and needed someone to spend nights with him, in part due to his intrinsically lonely nature, and he needed a human fortress between himself and the frightening force of fame. Now, all of that makes sense, doesn't it? That you would need some folks around you, and people that you feel like you could trust that were there for you. But the fact of the matter is that most of those guys, not all of them, they were there for the money. They were there for the money, for the fame, for the extras, for the ladies. At the end of 1968, after 10 months without intimacy of any kind with Elvis, not even games, as Priscilla called Elvis's preference for foreplay, she finally confronted him. I told him that we couldn't survive this way. I could the other way, with the games, because we had that, but it was like I felt like it wasn't me. Elvis, she recalled, tried to make love to me. He tried. And I knew he was a little uncomfortable with it, is what she said. Suzanne says Elvis did have relations with women on other occasions, other women who had children, but the fact that Priscilla's child was his own evidently reinforced his phobia. Now, I don't believe this. I think, once again, Elvis was a thinker. He was an emotional guy, an emotional person, totally different than the physical people that bounce around and they take lover to lover to lover to lover because it's the physical part of it. Elvis, those type of people don't read the Bible with the people that they're dating. They don't sit and talk all night long. They don't hold hands, all that stuff. Elvis was that type of a guy, and Priscilla didn't want that. And so Elvis, I don't think, felt emotionally attached enough to be able to complete the act with somebody that had betrayed him, that he knew didn't love him, that didn't accept him for who he was. That's why it didn't work. That's why this relationship didn't work, and why they stopped doing anything, like anything at all, because Elvis didn't want to. Elvis was betrayed, and he wasn't turned on by Priscilla at all. She didn't turn him on anymore at all because she was a cheater, a liar, a deceiver to him. And more importantly, I think Elvis could have got over that. I truly do. I think if Priscilla would have loved Elvis for who Elvis was and took part in all the things that he wanted her to take part in, and actually was truly his partner, and he her partner. You know, he didn't stop her from dancing, learning dance and singing all that stuff. He knew that she needed an outlet. He didn't tell the guys, yeah, send a private investigator and let's bust her ass. No, he did try to support her in that way. And even telling the guys, hey, don't say a cross word about her. Okay, partially because of his ego, partially because he knew that maybe it was a little unfair to expect so much out of her. But the fact of the matter is that Priscilla didn't seem to want Elvis, who he really was, and he knew that. And when you know that, there's no point in being with somebody anymore when you're an emotional guy. And I'm an emotional guy, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I know. So, let's continue here. The reality of her fantasy marriage, it had become untenable for Priscilla. The dream she had spun at 10, thrust upon her by parents when she was 17, was becoming her personal nightmare. Boo-hoo-hoo. Right? That's what some of us think. Personal nightmare. All right, she was still in a masquerade, keeping secrets, pretending to be the radiant bride of the most famous symbol in the world, Elvis, when she'd not so made love to him since the birth of their daughter, and was carrying on a not-so-secret affair with a male dancer. Priscilla, as a child, had fallen in love with the image of Elvis Presley, not the man she'd met in Bad Nauheim. Elvis was in love with the persona Priscilla had assumed in her effort to acquire him. Now they were two strangers who shared the same last name. To be a soulmate, you've got to have a connection. Lust. Mike Edwards analyzed. Yes, the same Mike Edwards that Lisa said, yeah, did things. You've got to be connected everywhere. Philosophically, emotionally, mentally, on every level there is. And they did not have it. They didn't have this great life. They didn't have this great physical connection. They didn't. You can't be a soulmate with someone if you don't have that. That's the true connection. When you get together and you can't breathe, and you're looking in someone's eyes and pressed so close, you just want to get just inside of each other, is what he said. Elvis and Priscilla, that was a fantasy world. Elvis's NBC special, which aired at the end of '68, offering both the silver lining and the cloud in Presley's married life. Elvis had been fortuitously matched for the special with an innovative young director named Steve Binder, who challenged him to revive the rock and roll spirit that originally defined him. Binder suggested a simple setting: Elvis seated on a chair in the round with his guitar before an intimate studio audience, performing live on tape in addition to several pre-production numbers, a concert that would bring him back to the purity of his rock and roll roots. Now, Bill Ballou designed a pair of tight black leather pants and black leather jacket for the special, an outfit Elvis feared might make him look foolish. The night the television show aired, December 3rd, 1968, the singer was a mass of raw nerves. Priscilla would recall, fearful that people would find his music and his costume ridiculous. But that concert electrified Elvis's career and would be referred to ever after as the comeback special. Elvis had never looked trimmer or handsomer, the tight black leather against his black hair projecting a smoldering, Brando-like sexuality that recalled Elvis' live early performances, and his simple classic rock arrangements helped obscure the inferior movies that had become in between those. He told Steve Binder, who had helped mastermind it, that the show had influenced him to never do another lousy movie or record another lousy song. Binder nonetheless had an ominous feeling, and he told Elvis, "I said, I hear you, but I'm not sure you're strong enough to back it up." Ooh. Steve Binder told Elvis that. I didn't feel Elvis was all that strong to fight the elements and people and entourages and so forth. That's where we're going to stop. I think he knew, Steve Binder knew, all the people around that Elvis had to take care of. And he knew that the reason why he probably did all those movies and all those songs was because Colonel Parker was getting publishing for Elvis and they were splitting it, and he wasn't getting the best songs. So those of you that don't know that, that's why the songs were not great in the 60s or 70s a lot of times, because they were not the cream of the crop. Songwriters didn't care whether they got a cut anymore. They wanted money, and if another artist wanted to cut it, they would go to the other artist. They'd make more money, even if it sold less. So anyways, that's my video for today. Thanks so much for being here. This is Joe Sands, Rarest Photos. Hope you have a wonderful day, and hope I kept you company driving or cleaning or having some tea and crumpets. All that good stuff. All right, TCB, TLC, much love to you. Thank you so much.